Good evening and welcome, everybody. Thanks for taking the time out of your night to join us for this public hearing. And just so you know, you're in the right spot. This is a public hearing for an EGLE application to expand the existing Scott Lake Campground Marina in Arlington and Waverly Townships in Van Buren County. My name is Ryan Blazik. I'm with EGLE's Environmental Support Division. I'm just going to be your moderator for tonight's public hearing. So I'm just going to go through a couple things before we get started in case you haven't joined us for one of these public hearings before. First off, I'm going to go through the agenda. This is what it's going to look like tonight. I'm going to start off with an introduction, kind of what we're doing right now. And then the big thing to keep in mind is that the hearing tonight is broken up into two parts. We're going to start off with an informational session. And so EGLE is going to present some information on the application that they received. And then you'll have an opportunity to ask some questions to EGLE related to the application and EGLE's permitting process. And then we're going to have the official hearing part after that. So that's where you'll have an opportunity to make a statement for the record on this application. And we're also going to cover the ways to submit an official comment other than speaking tonight in case you didn't want to make a statement or you have additional comments, and then who you can contact in case you have additional questions. All right, and the way we run these virtual hearings is that all lines are going to be muted during the hearing, so you'll be able to hear us, but we can't hear you. However, you will be able to unmute yourself in order to ask a question, or we have the Q&A box that's going to be in your Zoom toolbar. You can ask a question at that time, using that method as well. But we'll only be answering questions during the Q&A period, just so you're aware. And then we are recording this hearing, so it'll be posted on our YouTube channel in a couple days so that you can review it again or forward it on if you choose. All right, we're going to go ahead and get rolling. And so at this point, I would like to invite our EGLE staff on the line to turn their cameras on and introduce themselves.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Zach Harrison, and I'm an EQA with the Kalamazoo District Office, and I'll be serving as the hearings officer for tonight.
Hey everyone, I'm Derek Haroldson. I am the district supervisor for the Kalamazoo District Office, which includes the 8 counties in Southwest Lower Michigan.
And I am Joshua Aiden with the Campgrounds Unit. We license and regulate and oversee the Scott Lake Campground.
All right, thank you all for being here tonight. I think at this point, Zach's going to go over some information about the application that EGLE received.
Thanks, Ryan. So this is a brief description of the proposed activities under this permit application. Here, the image shown is the overhead view of the site plan that was provided to us, and this accompanies the submission that EGLE received as well. So the proposed work includes the expansion of the existing Scott Lake Campground Marina by 4 docks. There's 3 docks that are of equivalent length, measuring 16 feet long and 3 feet wide. Those are docks 1, 2, and 3, labeled on this image. The other dock, labeled dock number 4, is 12 feet long and 3 feet wide. Each of these docks provides mooring or a slip on either side of it. So in total, the marina prior to the expansion provided 62 boat slips, and following the construction of these docks, it provides 70. So things to note, again, this is an after-the-fact permit application. So to date, these docks have been constructed. So currently, the campground marina does offer 70 boat slips. On this overhead view, the 4 docks that you can see labeled removed have been removed. So the subject docks are those labeled ATF Dock 1, ATF Dock 2, ATF Dock 3, and ATF Dock 4.
All right. Yeah, thank you, Zach, for that summary of the application. We're going to move right into the question and answer session here. All right, and so how you can ask a question. All right, so this will be the only time tonight that we'll be addressing questions. But you can submit those questions using the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, like I had mentioned before. So just type your question in the Q&A box, send it to us. Or if you prefer, you can click the raise hand icon and ask your question verbally. And so what that'll do is raise your hand in Zoom. And then we're going to kind of bounce between the raised hands and the Q&A box as we have questions come in. If there's anybody who is on the phone and calling in, you can also raise your hand in Zoom and we can call on you. Just type #2. So type #2 if you're listening in by phone, that'll raise your hand in Zoom. And then we'll call on you using the last 4 digits of your phone number. And then we'll unmute you, and then you can unmute yourself using your phone and ask your question. So at this time, feel free to answer any questions that you have related to this application or the EGLE permitting process, anything of that nature. We should be able to answer. All right, looks like I have a question in here. The docks which were previously removed are not the subject of the after the fact permit question?
So there were a number of docks associated with our previous violation and our restoration order. The docks that were labeled removed on that previous overhead view have been removed. So in total, there were 8 docks previously. 4 of them have been removed, and 4 of them have been applied for as under this after the fact application.
Okay, so just to clarify, the removed docks are a subject, are part of the application?
Not the removed docks.
Okay.
Nope, those have been removed, and those have not been applied for.
Okay, got you. All right, thanks for that question. Are there any other questions out there that we have? That's the only one that I have at this time. And if we don't have additional questions that come in, what we'll do is we'll just move on to the next part of the evening, which will be where you have an opportunity to make a statement for the record on the application. So right now is a Q&A period. Once we get through this Q&A period, like I mentioned, we'll list those other ways to make a comment, and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right, and so the next question, I got some additional questions that came in. Have all the other docks in the picture been constructed under proper permits?
So we understand the marina has been in operation since roughly the 70s, from my understanding. Many of those docks were constructed outside of what's called our statute of limitations. So typically under Part 301, we cannot resolve any violations that have been conducted or any work that wasn't previously authorized past 6 years. So for many of those docks in the marina, we understand those to have been constructed more long ago than 6 years. So we cannot require permits for those docks, and from my understanding, those docks were never permitted. And those docks as well are not part of this after the fact permit.
All right, thanks, Zach. Next question is, does having 70 docks make sense to EGLE for a 116-acre lake? So I don't know, maybe talking if there's anything yet to say about the permitting process or what is looked at by EGLE.
Yeah, I'll say particularly for marinas, there are issuance criteria that I will describe later as I read the hearing statement that discuss the criteria again that we review when considering a permit application. I will say we do account for other uses on the water body, and we do account for effects on the riparian rights and potential effects on navigation that the marina may have. So I would say, ultimately the size and the use of the water body does play a role into that.
All right, thanks, Zach. How are you able to determine which docks were added within the past 6 years?
So that's based on communications with the landowner, who is also the applicant, as well as a review of available aerial imagery. So comparing, aerials taken from longer than 6 years ago versus those that have been taken within the last 6 years. Comparing those available on Google Earth, the county's tax parcel ID map, and then also some other various sources.
All right, thanks, Zach. If the docks were proposed today, would they be allowed?
Well, I will say the docks are being proposed currently, and a portion of our review criteria is this public hearing to understand, concerns related to the docks and kind of run it through our permitting criteria. So I'd say we're still actively looking to answer that question as you receive comments during tonight's hearing and continue our permitting process.
All right, thanks, Zach. All right, not seeing any other questions. We'll get a couple. Well, one just popped in, I think. And so basically, how many would be allowed if the docks were new?
So again, that kind of relates back to our permit issuance criteria. So as we consider any marina expansion project, whether that be for one dock or let's say 30 docks, for example, it all relates back to if though we have to consider whether or not those additional docks will, for example, result in a destruction of the natural resources that the lake represents, if those docks will interfere with navigation of the lake or infringe upon the riparian rights of adjacent property owners. And again, those are all part of our permit review criteria.
Has the Scott Lake Camp ever applied for a permit to be a marina?
So as far as I understand, this may be a question relating to our legacy marina operating permit program, which is effectively no longer administered. Currently, the only permitting that we do is for the creation, reconfiguration, or expansion of marinas. So with that being said, there would be no, I guess, permit that would be issued currently, except for if the marina was doing any of those three activities. But as far as my understanding goes, we don't have record of a marina operating permit that was issued under the kind of that legacy program.
All right, thanks, Zach. And so the next question is, if the permit were new and requested now, would the shoreline be allowed to be excavated to the extent it was to install these new docks? And I think this might be a similar question, maybe getting at, maybe I'm wrong, the after the fact permit versus if this was originally applied for. Anything?
Yeah, I think it's in this similar vein. I will say, regardless of whether an activity is being proposed after the fact or prior to it being completed, we consider or we run it through the same permit issuance criteria. So it wouldn't change. I'll say particularly for this, we would still want to address, what the effects that dredging may have on the water body in general, on adjacent riparians, and the public trust. And we would, that would be part of our review, I would say.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, Zach. I think that helps. If the campground people using the dock are not property owners on the lake, isn't that funneling?
I will say, I don't know that funneling is referred to particularly in Part 301. Part 301, however, does define a marina. And a marina is, I'll paraphrase a bit, basically a facility that offers mooring of a boat or like facilities for owners or for people who are not riparians. And I can read the definition in Part 301 kind of directly to clarify. So as Part 301 describes a marina, it means a facility that is owned or operated by a person, extends into or over an inland lake or stream, and offers service to the public or members of the marina for docking, loading, or other servicing of recreational watercraft.
All right. Yeah, thanks, and I think this is actually a good segue to the next question. What's stopping anyone on the lake from starting their own marina? Or anyone else?
Yeah, so, you know, constructing a marina, that type of thing needs a permit. So if anyone was proposing one, it would be run through the same permit issuance criteria that this particular one is being run through.
All right, thanks, Zach. And this next question might relate to some of the criteria you were talking about. Have multiple residential sites on South Scott Lake been considered, and at what point would the lake be considered overcrowded?
I guess I'm not particularly aware of what the multiple residential sites might be referring to. I will say to the second question, at what point will the lake be considered overcrowded? I would say we don't have like a bar to meet for that type of consideration, I'll say. We get involved when anyone is proposing work on any property that's on a lake, for example, or I shouldn't say any property, I should say any project that includes certain regulated activities on a lake. So if there was concern of overcrowding and maybe impacts to navigation or on adjacent riparians, we would address those matters at the time of our review of a permit application.
All right, thanks. When they added, so this next one's about the statute of limitations that you mentioned. When they added new docks to the existing docks, doesn't that negate the 6-year statute of limitations and ultimately restart that 6-year statute?
I don't know what they are referring to regarding the new docks to the existing docks. But as far as those docks that were built longer or that are older than 6 years, again, we cannot follow up on those. And as far as marinas go, the things that are regulated include constructing a marina, reconfiguring a marina, or expanding a marina. So.
All right, thanks, Zach. The next couple questions are related to the township and ordinances. Do the Arlington Township ordinances supersede EGLE ordinances?
I will say I'm not aware of the exact Arlington Township ordinances that may supersede a permit. I assume this might mean an EGLE permit. And typically under Part 301, we may issue a permit that I guess exactly isn't in line with the township ordinance. However, I will say our permits are conditioned to state that any local approvals are still needed, and that the applicant is subject to still needing any local approval. So with that being said, if a permit were to be issued, the applicant would still theoretically would still need to adhere to any local approvals.
All right, thanks, Zach. Next question, because they didn't have a permit and it wasn't stopped by the township, they are now grandfathered and allowed to expand? I think that's a question. Because they didn't have a permit, it wasn't stopped by the township. Are they now grandfathered allowed to expand? I'll rephrase just because I believe.
Yeah, I think they're asking if they're grandfathered in. Okay, so I think what this question is getting at is, well, I'll just say that the marina itself, the activity of expanding still needs a permit. So there's no grandfathering for these new docks that have been constructed within the most recent 6 years. They still need a permit for those.
All right, thanks, Zach. This activity falls into reconstructing or reconfiguring the marina, correct?
I suppose you could say reconfiguring. I think we would chiefly call this expansion though, considering there's an additional 4 docks.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, next question. Why am I not hearing outrage that the marina never followed the law in the first place and now expansion is even being considered? So I'm guessing this is getting at the after the fact process, permit process. I don't know, is there anything further that you can say about that, Zach, related to the fact that this was done after?
I don't have much to add. I'll just say, you know, folks are offered or can submit an application as they please, and as we get applications, you know, we run them through the permitting criteria. We can't necessarily stop anyone from applying for a permit. So we've received the permit application and we're running it through the permit issuance criteria. And this hearing is a portion of that.
Okay, thanks, Zach. And I think you addressed this, but in case you have anything to add, it doesn't sound like there was ever a permit for a marina to be there to begin with.
That's my understanding. I believe the marina itself, I believe it might even predate the law. So theoretically, if it did, it may not have needed a permit exactly when it was constructed. Under the Legacy Marina Operating Permit Program, it may have needed a permit at some point. But currently, that marina operating program is no longer, I guess, administered. So again, the expansion and the reconfiguration and construction is the only thing that requires a permit for a marina.
Okay, thanks, Zach. How do you know they were built more than 6 years ago if no permits were issued?
So that's based on, again, on the aerial imagery review. We rely on aerial imagery for a lot of things. We have several years, I think now, yeah, dating back to 2019, that have served as the reference point. A lot of our determination for this particular application.
All right, thank you. Does rebuilding a dock require a permit? Would that affect the grandfathering of these docks?
So yes, so rebuilding a dock completely, that does require a permit. There are some exemptions for like, for example, some like in-kind, in-place maintenance type things. But we understand that these docks were like completely replaced. So in that case, this type of thing would need a permit.
All right, thanks, Zach. Will the EGLE aerial photos be available for review? So I'm guessing that's the photos that you had reviewed, Zach?
Yep, those can be available for review. Those are all publicly available already. I'm using mostly open source images, either from Google Earth or the county's tax parcel website. But I can put together like a document that kind of has all of those in one spot, just for ease of access for anyone who's interested in seeing that.
All right, thanks, Zach. And again, I think you answered this question again, but if you have anything to add, feel free. If they don't have an existing permit, how are they able to keep operating and expanding? So, from just what you said before, if they're proposing something or expanding, then they would need a permit, correct?
Yep. So they would need a permit if they're proposing any expansion or, again, construction of a new one or reconfiguration of an existing. There's no like standing permit that we issue for the operation of a permit, or sorry, the operation of a marina. It's only for, again, the expansion, reconfiguration, or construction.
All right, thanks, Zach. I think that answered it. All right. So is there a limit or a maximum number? I'm assuming this is relating to this maximum number of boat slips. I'm assuming that this question is referring to.
Of boat slips. I will say outside of I guess the physical possibility of adding more slips and docks to this channel, the channel appears to be have quite a number of docks in it currently. I don't know if there's a potential to put in more docks. I don't know if we may receive a permit application in the future for further expansion. We certainly may. But as far as our permit issuance criteria goes, the max number, so to speak, may be the point at which the expansion of that marina may cause issues to navigation of the water body, or may infringe upon the rights of the adjacent riparians, or may cause, something like an unacceptable disruption to the aquatic resources. So, I mean, again, that's all part of our review. I can't necessarily say there's like a max number that's allowable under any given certain circumstance.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. I think that helps answer the question.
Okay.
What are the negative impacts of existing and new docks to the shoreline? I think you may have touched on that a little bit, but anything else to add or anything additional?
I don't know that I have anything additional. I'd say that's kind of still the things that we're reviewing as we have the hearing tonight, and as we further review, the application materials and so forth. We're trying to understand, the potential negative effects of the expansion of the marina, and then weigh that against, the benefits of expanding the marina.
All right, thank you. Got a few minutes left before we have to move on, but I have another question in here. It says aerial pictures also show that dredging took place within the last 4 years. Were permits issued for dredging?
So no permits have been issued to the campground from the Water Resources Division, as far as I can tell, ever. That would include the dredging that appeared to take place in a portion of the channel. We understand that there was some dredging that was completed. I will say the applicant, and during our review of all of the activities that were conducted within the last 6 years, that's not something that we followed up on, as we felt there was not enough information for us to know the exact extent of the dredging and the severity. So that wasn't part of the after the fact application, and it wasn't part of the restoration order either. That was included in restoration of the site.
All right, thanks, Zach. I don't have any other questions in here right now. We may have time for one more if someone wants to put one in there. If not, then we'll move on. Okay, so this will be our last question before I move on to the next part of the evening to keep us on time. Would a petition be considered to remove all of the docks, since the docks and dredging were illegal in the first place?
I will say that could potentially be considered. I will say not by I will say by an entity different, someone else from EGLE. That's not something that we do, particularly for docks that are older than, or any activity that's older than 6 years. We don't have the authority to follow up on those things. And in this case, as this comment suggests, to remove all the docks.
Okay, thanks. Actually, another one pop up. So this will be the last one. So if the correct process wasn't followed, why would more expansion be allowed?
I'll assume this is talking about the sequencing of proposing work prior to completing it. Ideally, that would have been the case. I will say that after the fact application process does allow for situations or scenarios similar to the one here, where work was completed, and we can consider an after the fact permit. It's obviously not the ideal situation, but.
All right, yeah, I think that helps. Yeah, thanks, Zach. Yeah, and our panelists, and thanks to all of you for asking all those great questions. We answered about 26 questions, which is quite a few. So thank you for taking the time to ask those. So what we're going to do is going to move on to the next part of the evening, which we're going to start with the hearing portion where we have a chance to make a comment. But before we do that, we always want to let you know there are other ways to make a comment in case you didn't want to make one tonight, or in case you run out of time. Are there any other circumstances where you would like to make a comment outside of tonight? You can do that through MyEnviro. You can provide your comments directly into the MyEnviro by accessing the public hearing event under submission HQ5 C10K27PK9, and we'll put this link in the chat or by mail to EGLE Water Resources Division, Kalamazoo District Office, PO Box 30458, Lansing, Michigan 48909-7958. And the comment period will be open for 10 days, which will be the 19th of January. And we will show this slide again after the hearing part in case you'd like to see it again. But right now, we're going to go ahead and get things kicked off with the hearing portion. So, Zach, would you want to read the opening statement for us?
Sure thing, Brian. So good evening, everyone. My name is Zach Harrison, and again, I'm the district representative in the Water Resources Division of the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy. And I'll be serving as the hearing officer for the public hearing on EGLE submission HQ5 C10K27PK9. And joining me tonight is Erik Antonowitsch. He's the Kalamazoo District Supervisor, and Joshua Aiden, the environmental engineer for EGLE's Campground and Swimming Pools Unit. So to describe how this is going to work tonight, I will begin with some background information about why we're here, and I'll then describe the purpose of the hearing and how the comments will be used. Following that, I'll outline the procedures under which we will take your comments and then describe what will happen after tonight's hearing. It will then be time for you to provide comments, and we will spend the majority of the time tonight listening to those comments. At the end of the hearing, I will read the closing statement. By the way of background information, the Water Resources Division is responsible for administering a variety of programs that help protect inland lakes and streams, wetlands, floodplains, sand dunes, and the Great Lakes. These programs regulate certain activities such as dredging or filling a lake, stream, or wetland, constructing a dam, constructing a marina, placing shore protection or constructing docks, and building in a designated critical sand dune area, wetland, or floodplain. The law governing those responsibilities is the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act, 1994, PA 451, as amended. We're here tonight because the applicant has constructed 3 docks measuring approximately 16 feet long and 3 feet wide, and 1 dock measuring 12 feet long and 3 feet wide. Prior to the expansion of the marina, the Campground Marina previously provided 62 boat slips and now provides 70 boat slips. The applicant has submitted an after-the-fact application, EGLE submission number HQ5 C10K27PK9, that seeks retroactive authorization of the completed work. In order for the permit to be granted, EGLE must find that the proposed activities described in the public notice meet certain criteria set by Part 301 Inland Lakes and Streams of Act 451. In general, we must consider the effect of the proposed project on the lake. When reviewing an application for permit under the provisions of Part 301 of Act 451, EGLE is charged to make the following considerations as required by Section 30106. 1. The department shall issue a permit if it finds that the structure or project will not adversely affect the public trust or riparian rights. And 2. The department shall not grant a permit if the proposed project or structure will unlawfully impair or destroy any of the waters or other natural resources of the state. Section 30106A of Part 301 states, the department shall issue a permit to construct, expand, or reconfigure a marina if the department determines that the marina meets the conditions of Section 30106 and all of the following conditions. A, the marina extends from riparian property of the applicant. B, the marina does not unreasonably interfere with navigation. And C, the marina is located and designed to be operated consistently with the correlative rights of other riparians, including the rights of adjacent riparians. The purpose of tonight's hearing is to give anyone interested in this marina expansion project an opportunity to provide information that EGLE can use in making the decision whether or not to issue a permit. Please recognize that EGLE can only use the information you provide if it relates to the criteria that EGLE must use in making a decision. Some of you may simply want to express your support or opposition to the project. We will be happy to make note of your position, but please understand that EGLE is, by law, not allowed to base our decision on whether or not there is widespread support or opposition of the project. So in just a moment, I'll outline the procedures we will use for taking your comments. But before I do so, I have to mention that the notice of this hearing was published in the Herald Palladium on December 21st, 2024. So as we discussed at the beginning of the informational session, if you have a comment to provide, raise your hand in the Zoom toolbar. To ensure that the hearing is conducted in a fair manner, we will follow these steps. So first, we already had the opportunity to describe the project. And second, we will start calling on those who have indicated in the registration that they would like to speak. After that, we will call on those that have raised their hand in the Zoom toolbar that they would like to make a comment if they haven't already been called upon. As a reminder, if you are participating in this hearing via telephone only, follow the directions of the moderator on how to identify that you would like to make a comment. You may also submit your comments to EGLE via the MyEnviro portal, email, or by US mail. When all the comments have been completed, we will ask if anyone else would like to make a statement. When your name is called, your microphone will be unmuted. As you begin your comments, please state your name and any group or association that you may represent. Tonight, each person will be given 3 minutes to make their comments, and we will indicate to you when you have a minute left. Please begin wrapping up your comments and end within the allotted time. So if need be, we will indicate when your time is ended. And we ask that all folks tonight be courteous and respectful to one another. And please recognize that EGLE staff is here tonight to provide you a fair opportunity for those of you that would like to express your comments on the proposed project and for us to listen to those comments. This hearing is being recorded and your comments will be part of the informational EGLE consider in making a decision on whether or not to issue a permit on the proposed project. The public comment period for this public hearing is open for 10 days from the date of this hearing, ending on January 19th, 2025. Additional information and comments submitted in writing during the 10-day public comment period will also be considered in EGLE's decision. Following the close of the public comment period, EGLE will make a decision to either issue a permit for the project as proposed, or with modifications, or send a letter of denial. You may find out what the decision is by checking the EGLE MyEnviro portal website and searching for the application number HQ5C10K27PK9. So thank you all for your attention, and we will begin calling on the names of those who have indicated they would like to make a statement.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. Yeah, Zach mentioned during registration an opportunity to indicate if you want to make a comment. So we'll start with those names. I have a list of 3 names. It'll be 1 comment per person. If your name is called, the way this will work is we'll call your name, we'll unmute you, you'll unmute yourself, you'll make your comment, you'll have 3 minutes. When you have 1 minute left, you'll hear this noise. Just so you know, you have a minute left. There will be a countdown timer. Everyone will have 3 minutes, and so you'll see the countdown timer at the top of your screen, counting down, so you know how much time you have. Once we get through those 3 names, everyone else will have an opportunity to make a comment. So everyone who wants to make a comment will be able to make one tonight. And you'll do so, can do so by raising your hand in Zoom. If you're not one of those 3 names, and if you're on the phone, you can select #2 to raise your hand in Zoom. We'll call on you using the last 4 digits of your phone number. So with that, yeah, please, I didn't mention your name and if you have any affiliation as well this time to make your comment. So first up is Robert Lemon, and then after Robert is going to be Frank Bell. So Robert, you are unmuted on our end, so you can unmute yourself on your end, and then you can begin your comment when you're ready.
All right, am I unmuted now?
Yep, we can hear you, Robert. You can begin when you're ready.
Okay. I submitted by email a comment. I hope you have that. And my primary concern is that the DNR did a study on the lake in 2021 and talked about a lot about the fish, but in portions of it, like on page 6, because woody habitat is low on Scott Lake, and mature vegetation along the shoreline may play a large role and should be protected. So I'm more concerned about the effect of these docks on the environment and the quality of the lake. I know there were a lot of questions about the number of boats. My concern is that the DNR in years past had a northern pike rearing ground that was directly adjacent to where they're doing this activity, where they're destroying this shoreline. The existing wetlands in North and South Scott Lake are important to spawning habitat for northern pike. These wetlands should be protected from alteration, development, and broad spectrum herbicides. And that's quoting from the DNR report. And that is a report named SFR report number 2023-357. I think we should take into consideration not only the dredging they've done on the lake, but the herbicides that they have spread to keep the weeds away from their docks. My question to you would be, have they applied for any permits to spread, to use herbicides on weed killers in the lake? I know that when I have it done on my property, the licensed applicant gets a permit to use this weed killer. Have they ever done that? So that is my primary comment. And again, I have submitted those comments in writing to you folks.
All right. Yeah, thanks for your comments, Robert. All right.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yep.
Thank you.
Thanks for your comment, Robert. All right, so next up is Frank Bell. So Frank, you are unmuted on our end.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you. You can begin when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the time to speak. Appreciate it. I'd like to start by clarifying that we're not opposed to the campground itself. Scott Lake Campground's been in business since 1989, so it's grandfathered or vested, whatever you want to call it, and it gets to stay as it was. That's understandable. But that doesn't mean the owners get to do whatever they want forever without complying with current regulations and ordinances. For the township, it's clearly outlined in Article 2 of the Arlington Township zoning ordinances, non-conforming uses and structures. The state regulations and township ordinances exist to protect the environment, ensure construction complies with established standards, and safeguard property values. By expanding without adhering to these regulations, the campground bypassed the oversight designed to protect the interests of the state and local residents, prioritizing their own interests over all others. The Google Earth images, which I included in my comment on the MI Enviro site, clearly show that the campground has been systematically expanding the marina by modifying and excavating the channel shoreline to install new docks since at least 2018. This issue only surfaced because concerned Scott Lake residents raised alarms. The purpose of an after-the-fact permit is to bring such projects into compliance. But in this case, the campground is essentially asking for forgiveness by bypassing regulations to retain their illegal expansions rather than seeking proper permissions as required. This should not be rewarded, especially given that the campground is a long-established business with 45 years of operation. As a business, it's their responsibility to be informed and comply with all applicable regulations. So for consideration of this ATF, I think three fundamental questions need to be asked and answered. Who does the added docks benefit? It's a simple answer. It's only the Scott Lake Campground owners. There are zero benefits to local residents, Arlington or Waverly Townships, or the environment. So got a minute left. What else I want to pay? The campground's lack of concern for open and transparent compliant actions are also further exemplified in their response and the purpose and use of the project for the after the fact permit. After the fact, they stated the ATF additional boat docks are needed for campground use. We've never had the adequate amount of docks for campers since the campground was opened. We have added 4 docks, which will hold 8 boats. More people equal more of a demand for docks. 2 points about that. They indicate they've never had an adequate number of docks for campers, but they illegally expanded the campground by 28 sites during the same period they added the docks. If they didn't have enough docks before, how will adding 4 docks help now? and the justification is focused solely on the benefits to the campground and not to Scott Lake or lake residents. They're masking the justification and concern for campers and getting them more docks, when in fact, they make money off the docks. More docks equals more money.
Frank, you're at time, so please wrap your comments up.
Okay. So again, I'm not against the campground or against its owners. If they'd have gone through the proper channels and abided by the regulations, it would have been fine by me, but they didn't. So I don't think this should be, their action should be rewarded. I think that.
Thanks, Frank. We're gonna have to move on to the next person. Thanks for your comment.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Next up is Julie Iverson. All right, so Julie, you can unmute your microphone. You're unmuted on our end. Just click your microphone icon and that will unmute you. She should see at the bottom of your screen to make your comment. It looks like we have two Julie Iversons logged in, or two logins. We've unmuted both to make your comment. All right, so what we'll do, Julie, we'll give you a couple seconds here, and then we'll move on and come back to you if you're having troubles with your microphone or unmuting it. So if Julie can't get her microphone on, then what we'll do is we'll go to anybody else in the audience or logged in tonight who would like to make a statement, if there's anyone else out there. So what you'll do is just click your raise hand icon in Zoom. You'll see that at the bottom of your screen for everyone logged in. Just click that raise hand. That will raise your hand in Zoom and we'll call on you in turn. And we do have some people logged in by phone. So if you're on the phone and you want to make a comment as well, you can select #2. That will raise your hand in Zoom. And Julie, it looks like you've unmuted yourself. Are you there?
It took me a minute. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. You can begin when you're ready.
I just want to point out that people on the lake have been applying for permits and they have been denied permits because of the rule of 1 pier per 50 feet. And if that rule applies to people on the lake, that would mean that the campground legally should only have 10 piers per their 500 feet, if my math is correct. I think we're all stewards of this lake. We are all here for safety. We're here to keep the lake healthy. It doesn't keep healthy if you keep on dredging, adding poison, and taking out the weeds that help to purify the water. I want to bring my family out on the lake that is safe, not having 70 boats, say half the boats, 35 boats out on a 116-acre lake. Would you feel safe having your kids out there with all those boats? I don't. The potential is there. Nobody's there to stop us. At some point, somebody has to protect the lake, and they have to protect property owners and their families for use. And that's all I really wanted to say.
All right. Well, yeah, thanks for your comments, Julie.
Sure.
All right. All right. Is there anybody else out there in the audience who would like to make a comment? Again, you can click the raise hand icon in Zoom, or if you're on the phone, select #2 to raise your hand and we'll call on you and I'll unmute you to make your comment. If we don't have any additional comments tonight, what we'll do is we'll go through those other ways to make a comment. We'll show this to you again in case you want to write in a comment or make a comment by another method. And then we'll provide Zach's contact info in case you have any further questions that may have come up that you want to contact Zach about related to this application. So I'm not seeing any other raised hands. And so what we'll do is we'll close out this part of the hearing and then we'll move on to the next part. So Zach, you want to read our closing statement for us tonight?
Sure thing. Thanks, Ryan. So first off, thanks to everyone for leaving your comments tonight and overall your cooperation. We really appreciate your interest in the proposed project and that you took the time to be here. So as we indicated earlier, you may submit additional written comments until January 19th, 2025. Following the close of the public comment period, we will consider all comments received and make a decision on the proposed project. And just to remind those that may still want to submit a comment, comments can be submitted via the MindViral portal, email, or by US mail. And the hearing is now closed, so thank you all again.
All right, thanks, Zach. Yeah, we're putting those other ways to make a comment in the chat again. And again, for the folks on the phone, it's through My Enviro, submission HQ5C10K27PK9, or by mail to EGLE Water Resources Division at the Kalamazoo District Office, and it's PO Box 30458, Lansing, Michigan 48909 -7958. And again, comment period will be open for 10 days till January 19th. And then if you have any additional questions, I got Zach's contact information up on the screen right now. You can contact Zach, Zach Harrison at 269-569-6972. That's 269-569-6972. Or at harrisonz2@michigan.gov. That's HARRISON Z2@MICHIGAN.gov. And before we wrap up tonight, I'm wondering, just Erik, do you have any closing comments for us tonight?
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. I'd just like to thank everybody for taking some time out of their busy schedule after hours to join the public hearing. We appreciate the questions, appreciate the comments, and again, just the overall participation and interest in the project. So again, thanks everybody for taking some time to attend, and hope everyone has a great evening.
All right, thanks, Erik. Yeah, thanks to all the EGLE staff logged in tonight and all of you who are on participating in the hearing. Last thing I'll leave you with is just a reminder that this hearing was recorded. We're going to put that on our YouTube channel in a couple days, so you'll be able to watch it again, or if there's parts you missed, you can access it there. So with that, have a great rest of your night. Thanks again.